Welcome to We Live It, the Live Ag Podcast, your source for livestock market insights, management strategies, and real conversations with those who don't just work in the cattle industry, they live it. Here are your hosts, Ty D. Cordova and Casey Mabry.
This is a blooper reel right here.
Racing start.
This is live awesome. Blooper.
Welcome to We Live It, the Live Ag Podcast with Ty D. Cordova and Casey Mabry. Today joining us is Jace Thompson from Billings, Montana, international champion auctioneer. So Jace, we'll just kind of jump right into it. Kind of fill us in on your background, kind of where you're from, how you got in the industry, your family history, and all of that.
Well, first of all, it feels like I'm being interrogated for a crime right now, the way you guys are looking at me. But yeah, we're in beautiful Fort Worth, Texas. I appreciate you guys having me on. I guess where do I start? I guess I'm a third generation auctioneer, third generation in the cattle business. My grandpa started down there in Wyoming. He still lives in Lander, operates there in that Wyoming area, but he started from nothing. He was dead broke and just kind of got the wild hair to do it and started what is now a really, really big business there. He handles a lot of ranchers' cattle down there in Wyoming, and he's really built, I would say, an empire, the way I look at it, you know. Yeah. But and then my dad started down there in Wyoming. He operated there for when he was about my age for probably 10 years or so, and then I don't have my timelines right, I'm sure, but operated there for about 10 years or so. My grandpa owned Riverton. Yeah. And so he worked there and then worked at a handful of other barns across Wyoming. And then he moved up to Billings, and Pat Goggins hired him up in Billings. And my dad's been there ever since, and he started quite a large business there in Billings and the surrounding areas as well. So, and then I've grown up. I was born in Lockwood there on a background lot that we had, and worked there my whole life. Kind of grew up working in the yards, working at the feedlots, kind of. I guess I had no other choice in a sense, but I enjoyed it and kind of was able to learn from the ground up, and grew up working there at the feedlot, working there on the yards, was able to be around it and learn a lot, and then kind of started getting into the auction side of it, and the rest is history. You know,
the first time I ever heard your dad, I guess he was selling Peeper's Red Angus bull sale. Me and my dad were my brother was sitting in a sale barn one day and come across Peeper's sale, and your dad was selling it. And that's kind of how I got to know your dad. We bought a many bulls from Peeper, Red Angus bulls, and he I loved to sit in front of him and buy cattle. Yeah, he's one of a kind, and that's kind of when I heard about you and when we was looking at and hiring the auctioneers for Live Ag. Your name kept getting brought up, and I said I'd never heard of you, and so matter of fact I never even listened to you. We sat down and had dinner that one night. And here we are. And Jace asked me, he said, well, how did you hear me? I ain't heard you. I ain't never heard you sell, but I hear good things about you, and I know your family's real deep in the industry. Really, really respect your dad. He's a great, great man. And when I called and visited him about it, he was anyways. So that's kind of how it come about you here. There was a dinner one night in Billings, Montana, out of the blue. And then about 2 weeks later, I heard you sell a bull sale somewhere. And I told Jason, I said, I don't know, why don't we hire this guy? And but no, we pick on Jason a lot around here because.
What were you gonna do if I sucked? What were you gonna do if you had me hired?
That really wasn't a plan B.
Fire you?
but I guess we would have probably fired you. Yeah. But you're still here, so you didn't suck.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, though, right?
That's right.
You just got to lean on genetics.
You get that. Genetics is a key thing in this industry, whether it is people or cattle. So you gotta lean on that a lot. So, no, it's pretty cool to watch you grow up, or hear about you grow up, hear about your industry standard, hear about your people. I mean, that's what it's all about here at Live Ag, is the relationship with the foundation of the families. And I mean, it's neat to watch the next generation rise up. And
and that's kind of what I like so much about Live Ag, you know, is the foundation of members and reps and employees that you guys have built up. You've kind of done it with the future in mind, you know. And you want some youth in there, and some people who have had some experience in the industry, even though they may be young, kind of build some future in it.
How old are you?
22.
My gosh.
Do you remember when you were 22?
Pretty sure I was still eating my boogers when I was 22.
Me too. I wasn't thinking about
Yeah.
a long-term vision, but that's another thing when we sat down with him and talked about goals and what he sees. And one thing I liked about him, he thought 10 years out or 15 years out. For his age, it really shocked me for him to be as business-minded and I'm bragging on him now, and I give him a hard time all the time, so I don't want to build him up too much because his head's already a little big. So we got to pump the brakes every once in a while. But he's a phenomenal young man in the industry that you want to attach yourself to and watch him grow, and it's pretty neat. So,
well, imagine. I mean, you think about it. You probably didn't spend a whole lot of time watching TV when you were a kid, right? I mean, you were sitting out there with your dad and running that grow yard and all that stuff. Probably when you were young, 12, 13, 14 years old.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think that was a huge benefit, too. And I don't know what your guys' childhood was like, but I got to spend a lot of time outside. We had a couple thousand acres right across the street. And, I love playing outside, even as a young kid. And I think just having that freedom and being able to kind of explore it, and it's such a benefit to a young person, because not all kids get to. I mean, it was
that's true.
So special to be able to just have all that there and be able to get dirty, be able to work, and I just think it's kind of an important part of the development.
So you talked about your grandfather. Were you like right up against him all the time, or was he in a different location?
No, he was down in Wyoming, which they're about 4.5 hours south. We spent a lot of time. Our family was real close growing up, still are. My dad's side, all the cousins were real close, spent all holidays together, and I've always been really close with my grandparents, but I wouldn't say I spent a lot of time with them growing up.
Yeah.
But since I've started auctioneering especially, my grandpa and I have become real close, and he's helped me out a lot. We've done some deals together, and it's just been a privilege to be able to be close to him in business-wise in the last 4 years. But we've always been close as a family, growing up.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably super important, and I think it's very interesting. And I've had the luxury of meeting lots of different families, and my background when I grew up is way different than most everybody, and everybody's got different backgrounds. But it's interesting to watch, like you talk about your grandfather and the empire that he built, and then your dad goes off and kind of does his thing. And then it looks like you're wanting to go kind of do your own thing as well and kind of pave your own way and not just kind of fall in line. And there's too many families that you look and it's like everybody tries to just mandate what that person's going to do and come back and fold into the operation. And then those operations don't survive long term. But you guys are all trying to pave your own way. And I mean, it's interesting how young also you are with that insight and that foresight to do that. So
yeah. Well, I think it's important. Like I would always, I've traveled a lot. I've never moved out of my hometown, but I've traveled a lot and been able to experience different things in my travels. But I think it's extremely important. My dad sells for the Schiefelbeins, and they mandate that their kids go out and do something somewhere else and, go get a degree, go live somewhere else. And just, I think that experience and that diversity can bring a lot. Even if you do come back to the operation, it brings a lot of benefit to the family operation. But I think you have to kind of make yourself unique with your experiences.
Yeah, I would agree. What you also competed in LMA World Championship Auctioneer contest last week, and also by doing that, you put yourself out there to be a spokesperson for the industry. So kind of what does that mean to you, and how does all that work, and kind of fill us in on the contest stuff?
Yeah, so I started doing the contest. I never really was a big fan of them.
Yeah.
It was funny. I always kind of thought, like, all these things are just for show, and, I didn't think there was anything special to them. And I ended up kind of making myself go to one, and then I went to one, and I'm like, man, I learned a lot. I brought a lot home that made me a better auctioneer, whether it was big things or just little tiny, minute things, and so they started to add up, these things that I learned at these contests, and they made me so much of a better auctioneer. So anyways, fast forward, I started going to the World Livestock Auctioneer Championship, went to qualifier 2 years ago in Torrington, qualified and went to the Worlds. Had a great experience. You meet so many people. It's also the championship is in conjunction with the LMA convention.
Yep.
So you got industry leaders from all over the country, and they're all meeting about important industry issues. And so it's just like, it's really cool to be a part of and at that convention, and you learn a lot. But the contest this year was in Dunlap, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, and there was 30. Usually there's 31, but there was a gentleman had some injuries from a car accident, so he didn't make it. But there's usually 31 There's 30 guys, and it was a really fierce competition.
Pretty tough.
And they had a heck of a lot of good cattle there in Dunlap, and we were able to showcase our skills. But I don't know what I ended up. We've been joking about it. I don't know if it's 4th or 9th. But
well, you're the top 10.
Yeah,
so
made the top 10. Yeah, made the top 10, which in my opinion is
that was a tough group up the top 10. I mean, the whole deal was tough, but that top
What's
10
the
was,
youngest person that's ever won it? Will they let a 22-year-old win it, or are they going to make him get in the top 10 about 8 years in a row?
I might be mistaken, but was Ralph the youngest one to win it, or was
Blaine Lotz won
Blaine
it. I know
Lotz.
Blaine Lotz won it when he was, I think, 20.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's been a couple younger guys, but I think the norm would be,
30.
yeah.
Well, I've said this before on this podcast. I mean, you don't really get any kind of clout in this industry until you're 40.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
so you're way ahead.
No wonder
than I
they let
am,
Wade win it.
Yeah.
He got over 40, so they finally let him win it.
They're like,
they felt
by
bad,
default,
they
you've
felt
been here
bad
so
for
many
him.
times.
By
we're gonna
default,
let
he
you
got
have
it.
Yeah.
You're
They
supposed
were
to
just
give him
tired
a
of
hard.
seeing
They
it.
was tired of seeing Wade, weren't they? Yeah.
So
So now they
once
got
you
him out
win
of the
it-
way this year.
Once you win it, they don't let you do it anymore.
Yeah, you can't go back. But you spend a year, they give you a pickup and they arrange a bunch of appearances for you, and you go around. I think Wade did 40 this year.
It's like
you
Miss
go around-
America.
Yeah.
He's an overachiever.
Yeah. And I think he's older than 40, isn't he?
Yeah, he would probably. I think me and him are close to the same age. He might be a little bit older than me. He might be 44 or 5. So they kind of aged him. They kind of aged him out.
Yeah.
Get a little long in the tooth.
So the competition, like for the people that don't know about it, like what's day one? I mean, like how long is it? What's it do? Kind of give us some details.
So the
on it.
convention would be, let me see, convention would be 6 days long technically, or I guess 5 or 6 days long. But the contest, they take you to the auction barn, kind of give you the initiation, the rundown. You meet the auction owners. This year Dunlap gave us a local sponsor. So like usually the host market will give you a gift, and instead of they did give us a gift, but they also had someone from the community, because Dunlap's such a small community, had someone from the community sponsor us, get us a night's hotel room, and so we all had our own local sponsors.
That's
so we met
pretty
them.
neat.
It was cool, and it brought the community into
Dang
it.
right.
And all those local sponsors were at the barbecue, and it was really community oriented. But so they take you there, you go through orientation, and then there's an interview portion of this contest, which
How'd that go
I
for you?
hate. It went better than last year, but I struggle with it, being up there, being under pressure.
Kind of hard to talk to people, isn't it?
Oh, I know, especially Wade. Wade's is up there making faces at me, trying to screw me up. But so you go through the interview portion. That's 25% of your score. So you do that your second day of the contest, and then you go and do the live auction portion. Usually sell 8 drafts in the prelims, and then if you make the top 10, you sell 10 drafts. So it's pretty cut and dry, but I think having that, LMA structures it to, they want you to be a spokesperson for their industry, and that interview score being 25%, it shows your ability and to get up and speak, and which I obviously need more polishing on, but get up and speak in front of people and test your knowledge as well.
Yeah, so let's say there's somebody out there that's watching this thing that's a younger person that wants to become an auctioneer someday, and maybe they want to win the World Championship. Like, what things to you? I mean, like, I look at you as no different than any kind of professional athlete, right? Because you're using one of your physical attributes or your mental attributes to do it. Like, what do you do to mentally prepare yourself, throughout the year? What are things, like if you leave there and you're like, man, this is what I need to work on. Like, what do you do? I mean, is it on a daily basis, weekly basis, driving down the road? Let's kind of talk about that. How do you develop your skill, and how do you hone it?
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to develop your chant. I would say my chant came easier than my mechanics of it. So I've had to put a lot of work into the mechanics side of it. But, you just spend time driving down the road, spend repetition. It just takes time. You got to do it and correct little tiny things. And so I think once you develop your chant, that's the easiest part. And then I've learned, just getting into the auction side of it, I've learned the most by just doing it. And I've told so many people that, like, when I was first starting, even if it was a pots and pans auction or any auction that I got the chance to sell, I made it a point to go and do it. Even if I knew it was going to suck or it would be a wreck, I made it a point to go and do it, because even if it doesn't go well, you learn what not to do, or you learn how to handle those situations. So I would say that was a big thing that I did for myself, like preparing myself career-wise and developing myself career-wise. And the other big thing is you got to have a mentor. You got to have somebody. You know, my dad and grandpa both were big, and I always talk about them. But also, I mean, I get to sell with some of the best auctioneers, in my opinion, in the world every day. You know, I sell with Bill Cook there at Billings Livestock Commission, and he's just incredibly knowledgeable, and he's been a wealth of knowledge to turn to, and a great mentor, and become a good friend too. But you got to have a mentor as well. You got to have somebody to help you, somebody who knows, and somebody who can kind of take you under their wing. It sure expedites the process. But I would say that those are the two things for developing your career. And then for me, I sell enough sales a week to where I can kind of get my practice in while I'm selling or at the sale. So it's not like I do exercises or anything for it. You know, it's just enough repetition, and I've kind of been able to hone my skill.
No, I think one of the biggest points you talk about is like the mentors. And so is there somebody you try to mimic yourself or mimic after, or you're like, I'm just going to create my own?
Yeah, no, I think it's important. I think auctioneering, that's kind of the cool thing about it, is it's your art, you know, and everybody has their different style. I tried to be unique. I tried to be Jace Thompson, you know, but inevitably when Ty Thompson is teaching you or Warren Thompson's teaching you, you know, pick up some of their habits. Hopefully all the good ones too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I know you've traveled a lot. Where's one of the most unique place you was able to go sell, and then what is the kind of the strangest thing you ever sold?
I would say the most unique place. That's easy. I went to South Asia for quite some
you're
time.
tough with words. I understand.
Yeah. Spent 2 years going over to South Asia.
Selling equipment,
construction equipment. And I'd say probably the most unique thing was over there. We'd sell ambulances and also, I mean, everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Anything that's got wheels and a motor.
So did you auctioneer it? Did you translate your chant into Mandarin?
No, Mandarin's in China.
Oh, okay.
He's not good with geography at all.
He's not good with words. I'm not good with geography, right?
Yeah, that most of those guys speak English over there, so it was pretty easy actually. But you know, your bid catchers.
So how'd you get into that?
There's a gentleman from Great Falls. His name's Kelly Fisher. He's done those equipment auctions forever, and they were looking for a younger guy to get into it, and needed me to fill in a couple sales, and just started doing it, and kind of things started working out better over here than it was over there. So I kind of pursued this.
So Ty, think about that. Like whenever I was 19 years old, I'm like trying to figure out. I was in probably Stephenville going to city limits and not necessarily focused on anything else. He's going to South Asia and selling
ambulances.
Yeah.
And here we are, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you were 22, you were in you grew up in the business, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And did you?
No.
You did. When did you get?
know.
What age did you kind of start?
So I mean, I went to college at Texas Tech, and like after I got done there, I went to graduate school, and so I was been probably 24 or something, and I went to work for Cargill, and actually, like I've bought cattle from that your dad had fed or whatever, but I lived in Torrington, Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
For a few years buying fat cattle, and so like mine has all been like just through different people that have given me experiences or given me opportunities to do it. So yeah, I'd have been like this 25-year-old that didn't know anything about cattle feeding for the most part or feed yards, because I grew up down the road from here. And there's not really any industrial ag around Fort Worth, Texas anymore, right?
Right.
So, but to your point, like there's guys that I think about, like there's a feed yard. When I moved to Torrington, and I bought cattle for 18 months or so, but you're really just going through the motions of going, okay, I'm looking at these cattle. I think they're okay. I'm going to buy them from this guy. And Cargill would give you the order to buy cattle. You just buy cattle and hope they worked out. Help me learn. And so, so then I've learned through those people and just trusting them. And then, so I would treat him right on buying cattle and then, learn throughout the way. So then I'd learn, where are these cattle from? Who had them? What are they? Or are they a set of yearlings? Are they a set of calves? Because then the result was way different each and every time. So
it sounds like you would agree in my statement that you have to have people to help you.
100,000%.
And a lot of times I bet you didn't always knock a home run on those cattle you bought. I bet you made plenty of mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They called us $1 million babies, right? Yeah. Like you made your mistakes along the way. Now, and I say this all the time. I've got younger guys that work for us now that at Blue Reef, and it's like, man, whenever you bring those guys on board or whoever that is, you're like, it's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to just continuously stay wrong. right? So you got to learn from it, adapt, and move on. And so, I mean, like, it's funny because I think through all this AI that we're in today, and, you know, like these different, you know, AI platforms, Chat GPT, whatever that is, and a lot of these people listen to us don't know what that is, but there's going to replace some people, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the people that try to adapt and learn, it's not going to replace them.
That's kind of. Have you seen some of the stuff on that AI? It's kind of
nuts.
scary.
Yeah,
it's a
it's
little
nuts.
bit nerve wracking.
Yeah, the video stuff is what scares me more than anything, you know, because you can make people believe
you can
things.
make everything. Oh yeah, make it really believable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would say that's. I mean, I'm young, but I can say that with confidence that, like, you got to, especially in this industry, you got to have somebody, and it's, you can do it on your own, but you'd have to really bust your butt, you know.
Yeah, you got to tie yourself to some really good industry leaders and people that have been in it for a while. And that was what's so fortunate about me, was I was lucky and fortunate enough. My dad stuck me in front of a lot of really, really knowledgeable people in this industry. And, you know, they can put you in a place, but it's your duty to learn it. They're not going to just force feed you it. And you got to grab onto their coattails and kind of learn as you go. And, you know, I told him this. It took me a little while to figure it out, but I told him all the time before he passed that how grateful me and my brother were of the positions he put us in and the people he put us around. Yeah. And I mean, it's just some of that's just priceless. You can't put a figure on it. So you got to have a mentor.
I've talked about that at length, about this industry is really, really short on the world is short on talent, right? Because it's pretty easy just to go through life and not really push harder.
Yeah.
And it's the people that want to push harder and do things that kind of excel. And so I think that it's you wanting more. It's your family that gives you the ability or the enabler to do that. But, man, if anybody wants to be part of this industry, honestly, there might be some 14-year-old boy that wants to be you someday.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be how you react. If somebody reaches out to you and goes, hey, I want to really do that, I mean, more than likely you're going to go, hey, I'll take you under my wing or whatever, right?
Well, that was the first impression means a lot to me. And when the first time we sit down, I seen 5 years, 10 years down the road with him, more of a leader and a go-getter like we all were when we was that age. That, okay, you can tell he's going to work, and he's not going to.
He's 10 years ahead of where I was.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. No doubt. I mean, but yeah, now that I know him, I'm thinking, boy,
turned into a charity case real fast.
What did we do here?
Yeah.
But some days I wonder. But anyways, no, it's pretty.
I think that's a hard part too about our business, and I might have trouble wording this correctly, but I think, like, as a young guy going in, like, you didn't grow up in it at all. You just were like, I want to go in.
My dad trained thoroughbred racehorses.
Yeah, so if you're going to get into it, you have to work. You have to be at the bottom of the totem pole for a while, and it's hard work, and it sucks.
Yeah.
So if you don't really like it, to be able to work your way up that totem pole I think that's where it gets most people, you know. Young kids might be like, I want to try it. And then they're like, oh, this sucks. You know, they're working pen back or, 30,
back of the
30 below.
Yeah.
And you got to do it. It's
cleaning
part
feed
of
troughs and water troughs.
Yeah, but you got to like it. You got to enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, it's so much work and it's so demanding that it's, you know, you're much better off to go do something else if you don't like it, you know. Don't you think?
I know. I agree 100%. You got to love it to be in it. And
Yeah, I think this industry, like, when I think back to whenever I was, like, you know, a sophomore in college and I knew I wanted to go to the meat industry. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to go into that industry, into what capacity. I didn't know it was. I did not know. I mean, if you would have told me when I was in the middle of school that I was going to be managing a risk for feed yards or cattle feeders, that would have never even crossed my mind. I just knew that I needed to go get a job, right? Yeah. And so the thing that allowed me to move into all these different things is any job that I had, I don't care if I was working on the kill floor in Pasco, Washington as an intern. I met the guy that was, you know, wheezing rodding the cattle, whether he was a line worker or the guy that was managing the plant, and really wanted to understand the people and how they got to where they're at. And then over time, what's weird, I was having a conference call yesterday with a producer of mine, and, you know, just talking about the meat business, and then all these people, this network of people that just have come across, you know, in different things. because I was able to take the time and just learn from them. And it wasn't like I was just intentionally trying to network.
Yeah.
You like try to learn the people, then you build the network, and that's a byproduct of learning the people.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like funny when you're sitting there talking about, it took me like 10 minutes into this podcast to realize that you're Ty's son, and I've never met him before.
Aren't you supposed to research your
we
guests
don't.
before you
No,
have
we don't. That's the best part about it.
That's the best part about
because
it.
then it allows us to not have anything like canned, right?
Yeah.
And it allows me personally. But it just hit me, and like I've never met him before, but like just through relationships, I bought the guy's cattle. And
Right.
There's been lots of different. I mean, I can probably rattle off 10 names of people that associate, and there's just like a little bit of degree of separation there, but. No, it's just that's my favorite part of this business is you sit down there and you go, man, I knew this guy and did this. And I hadn't been in the industry terribly long, 15, 16, 18 years, something like that. But that's my favorite part.
Ty's been in it a long time. That's all that gray hair and that beard.
Hey, look, we was not going to pick on me
I think
today.
he just from in the front of that beard.
I think I
You
need to-
ruined that when I walked in the doors this morning.
Well, you got to give you a hard time, or you'll start thinking we like you. So, anything else we want to talk about? I mean, you want to kind of talk about. Never mind, I'm not going to bring that up. So I'm just going to turn back to the camera. We good? We got anything else we want to discuss?
I got tons of stuff I want to talk about.
Well,
Market's on fire. It just continuously gets on fire, and I'm telling you, the market's so high now that you're starting to get people that are like, even the people selling cattle, they're going, man, maybe this thing needs to back off just a little bit. But we just continue to escalate the market leaps and bounds.
Finding new highs every week.
Everybody called for a high the last time, and they called for a high the last time, and it just keeps going higher. There's a new packing plant that just started up, Sustainable Beef, there in North Platte. I don't know how many cattle they killed. The one that Cassie, they killed 80 head that first deal. I don't know how they're running. I haven't really heard, but it just shows that the dynamics in the industry just continue to shift. Numbers remain extremely tight. I was talking a minute ago with a guy, and it's just interesting how much rain we've gotten across the country.
My goodness.
So we've got feed that's really cheap. We have grass that's very plentiful. And so there's lots of incentive to hold on to cattle and make them big, whether you're in a feed yard or out on grass. And so that's just going to keep cattle off of the market for sure. So with all that, we got to continue to manage, any risk management that a guy's done is, in his mind, maybe not paid off. Yeah. But now that we've gotten these levels, we got to be extremely careful.
I was talking to a guy this morning about that risk management, and he was, he said it's tough right now doing it, but it's a must because this could take, if something does happen, this could take generations away. So we got to be careful and manage it as we go. So,
it's insane. We advanced the market, in the north, $30 in like a very, very short period of time. So the thing that I was thinking of the other day is like in 2020, let's just say, even before COVID and all that other stuff, the market would range between $1 and $1.30. Okay, so $1 on fats, $1.30 on $1 to $1.30.
Yeah.
Feeders were sub $2. There's guys that hedged feeder cattle this fall at $2.50, and now the market's sitting at $3.10. That's a $60 rally. We've taken cattle and more than doubled them over that. I was looking at a monthly chart. Scott and I were going over this yesterday, and for the last 4 years, we've only had 2 monthly setbacks. The rest of the time, the market's just advanced and gotten higher. So that's all great, and that's fun, and it's exciting, and it's, you sit here and going, man, this is all, all that stuff. But what we want to make sure is people don't just get caught off guard if this thing does correct. Or this is not the stock market. This is a commodity. We will overproduce this commodity at some point because now a guy that had 100 cows couldn't pay his bills, 4 years ago, and now a guy with 100 cows is a wealthy guy, right? And you could pay for land and do different things, And so maybe that's the way it should be, but that's not the way it's typically been in this industry.
Well, speaking of how high the market is today, at 1:30 we have a sale. We got right at 9,000 cattle on. It's on RFD TV and live-ag.com. So if you're in the market to buy a few, we will have an international champion auctioneer starting us off today, and then a world champion auctioneer finishing up today. Ex-world. His reign's over.
Formerly known as
world champion auctioneer. So we also want to invite you throughout the summer. We got some sales coming up. June 26th. I got trouble with words too. June 26th, we'll be at the Farmstead Inn in Shipshewana, Indiana. That deadline is June 17th. July 24th, we'll be at the Hilton Garden Inn in Boise, Idaho. That deadline is July 15th. And August 14th, we'll be at the Hangar in Casper, Wyoming. That deadline is August 5th. So if you want to consign to those cattle, go to live-ag.com, look up one of your local reps, get with them, and we'll get you consigned up and get your cattle marketed for you. Thank everybody on social media for joining in and watching the podcast and supporting the We Live It podcast and Live Ag. Just thank Casey and Jace for being on here today. I know we give Jace a hard time, but he is a really good young man and comes from an awesome family. So I want to thank you for joining us and trusting us and being a part of the team. So
thank you guys.
Once again, hit subscribe and like. I better add that in there for Katie so she don't shoot me. So hit that.
Well, they got you trained up on the social media stuff.
They do. I mean, Katie, she's kind of been whipping me for a little while on this. So hit subscribe, hit like, and once again, thank y'all. God bless.